Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Arola. Resolved that the regular meeting commence at the hour of 7 p.m. And be it further resolved that Council acknowledges that we are meeting in the Robinson Superior Treaty Area on lands that have been traditionally used by several Indigenous nations. But we would like to pay special recognition to our closest Indigenous neighbors, the communities of Bidigon, Nishnabeg, and Pic-Bobat First Nations. We wish to recognize the long history of the First Nations and Métis people in our region specifically and show respect to them today. All in favor? Thank you. Call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Moved by Councillor Arola, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that the agenda be approved and circulated. All in favor? Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Scampanello. Resolved that Council is in receipt of the presentation provided by Kevin Turner, owner of Turner's Northwood Adventures, regarding the landing of helicopters at Turner's Northwood Adventures. Mr. Turner, you're on.
See how this goes. So do I read the deputation, the delegation form also?
Sure, yes.
Okay. So,
however you want to.
Yeah, so my name is Kevin Turner, owner-operator, Turner's Northwood Adventures. Requesting the group in the interest of business development in Manitowoc. I'll be by myself. I haven't been approached council before, but another company has. And it'll be all oral and written presentation that you have. The reason is for the landing of helicopters at Turner's Northwood Adventures to further grow Manitowoc by attracting other companies to operate out of our community. Attached to Rich will form a presentation accompanying my delegation, yes, and I don't need any of the above. So, dear Mayor and Council, thanks for Ken and Mr. Cranny for this. Has several hats. We're proposing that Township Manitowoc, that the helicopter operations be authorized from 371 Manitou East. Attached, you see the letter from Transport Canada for the comprehensive review and Canadian aviation regulations. No contraventions were committed. Past helicopter operations were operated at Turner's following proper procedures during landing safely under the supervision. With this being said, we would like to continue this operation. It's our hope that Turner's Northwood Adventures and the Township can continue to work together and come to a resolution to benefit our community, and we look forward to discuss this matter. So I guess most of you know I'm Kevin Turner, lived here for 40 years, been a business owner for 10. I have an interest in the community. I serve on several boards, Economic Development, ATV Committee, Public Consultation Committee, Outdoor Enthusiasts, and that's a typo. I'm not the chair of the Community Revitalization Advisory Committee, but I'll be on the board. Since becoming an owner in 2010, helicopter operations took place for my operations for several years for geophysics, forestry, mining, and hydro projects. These projects had no resistance until in 2016. In May 2016, Hydro ceased operations by Transport Canada by a complaint from the Township of Manitowoc over safety. Hydro One assured they were full compliance and they would present to Council in this matter. No consultation took place between the Township, myself, helicopter operations, or supervision. Hydro's main concern is the quick, effective time to respond to the situation leaving Turner's, as opposed to the 15-minute drive to the airport. Hydro One has, they call it their golden hour for emergency response, whether someone's in fall arrest or in critical injury. They're saying this additional 15 minutes could make or break a rescue on the line, because they're close to the line. They could go to the line, which starts behind the house. This way here, they have to drive out to the airport, get the helicopter, and go. So they're saying they're losing that 15 minutes of response time. as opposed to being ready to take off in my yard. Hydro made a presentation in 2016 and was declined, and I have that one from when they did that deputation. And their main concern was the safety, but according to this Transport Canada letter, said it wasn't safe. Now I have the Transport Canada letter says we're no contravention of aircraft safety. Unfortunately, they left Manitouwadge in December 16, lack of support from the community, and moved to Hornpain, and then they operated out of there for the next year. There was a huge economic loss, and it was calculated between Hydro and its employees. They were spending $35,000 per month in the community. I spoke to one of the Hydro supervisors this week. He said that did not include the aircraft fuel and the gas and the diesel for the operation, because that went under a different invoice for fleet fuel. And he said when they were flying the poles every day on a regular basis, their average fuel consumption was $2,000 to $3,000 per day when they operated a full day. So in 2017, I met with Transport Canada, discussing the location with aerial photos. Mr. Sajak stated to me that he was misled by the township of the situation, and he attached me the letter that we have from Transport Canada saying there was no contraventions made. So I presented the letter to Andy Major, and he said this is what he wanted all along. I was good to go. So Hydro then landed in the vicinity of our property, not on our property, and the job was shut down again, once again, by the communication by the township. This time it said it was stated as a zoning issue. So recently I had a discussion with the airport manager, CEO, about changing my zoning to commercial to appease what he wanted, and in order to get operating again. And this time he expressed it was not only zoning, there was other issues. I'm not fully understand what he meant. So today I would like to try and work with you guys together, and there's several companies waiting for your decision, such as Canadian Ore Bodies, Hydro One, which is Hydro One has a project coming up in February 10th for 3 to 4 weeks. Some of the suggestions from Hydro was that maybe if you guys grant me permission, that they could sign a contract that they would pay a flat rate. They will still buy their fuel, so you still have your landing fees. They'll work out a deal if you want to do it that way. And one of their concerns was when they're working on the line, if they go to Marathon, they have a card lock system, so they're not charged for a landing fee, they're not charged for a call out. Put the card in, they buy the fuel, and they're gone. If they go to Hornpain, as long as it's during working hours from 8 to 4, they just call the township, and the guy goes out and fuels them up and doesn't charge them a fee or landing fee or anything. So we're really, they actually are telling me they try to avoid Manitouwadge because of the cost, whether it's Hydro, Expedition helicopters last winter, projects like that. So somehow we need to work on something to get these guys to come in for further exploration. Canadian Ore Bodies is looking at a project right now in April, and they're awaiting our decision. Their project at Smoke Lake is actually a third closer to the project than it is Manitouwadge. The only reason why they flew to my place, they flew to the airport last year, was because, one, our community is bilingual. Two was I was able to offer them a camp where they could bring their own cook in. They did the core cutting and the core logging in my buildings, and I provided a dry, and I had a repair shop for them. So it was like a one-stop deal. They didn't have people in Marathon all over, spread all over town. So that's the reason why they came to Manitouwadge. It cost them more for fuel to go from here, but we had all the other facilities. And I spoke with Canadian Ore Bodies guy on Monday also, Jacob McKinnon. The previous owner, CEO, was killed in an accident in July. So Jacob's the lead for the exploration projects. My discussion with the Expedition helicopters and the cook and everybody for last winter's project was estimated at $59,000. So out of that $59,000, $24,000 was fuel, and $3,000 was landing fees. The rest was accommodations. They hired a local guy in town equipment rentals, other accommodations, myself, Sled North, Select Inn, Burgoyne's. So they spent a lot of money. And Jacob assured me that was more than $59,000 last winter. He was supposed to get back to me and he never did. So anyway, that's basically the gist of it. So we're just there. And also Canadian Ore Bodies, by doing their projects out of Manitowoc, now they have core storage at my yard. So they'd rather come back and continue the business in Manitowoc. They're actually considering Manitowoc as a provincial location for their core and bringing all their core from Ontario to Manitowoc because it's scattered in Timmins and Marathon, Manitowoc, all over. So they're looking at making a central location. So that could be another opportunity for Manitowoc to provide a building, maybe a piece of property in Manitowoc, because I don't think my yard, he was looking at my yard, and I don't think it's big enough. So that could be another opportunity. If they have a core area here, they're going to come here, they're going to eat here, they're going to stay overnight, they're going to, and I think we need to welcome them. I understand why the fees of the airport and everything, but sometimes we have to work together and just try and figure something out what we could do. Unless you have suggestions what we could do or about the landing fees, whatever. I don't know what your idea is. And you have the east-west tie line coming in through. And I spoke with the helicopter pilot from Whiskey Air last week, and he said they will be probably running out of Marathon, but if they have poor weather conditions, they prefer Manitowoc because they can't fly out of Marathon. So they maybe Ballard or one of them contractors could come up here also. So there's lots of work in the area, and what I'm hearing is we're not really welcoming them because of the way we operate as compared to the other towns. And I understand Owen's point about we need the fees for the airport, but what can we do to bring them in? Like what any suggestions of how else we could appease the fees, or like a flat rate or whatever? But I would like to have they would like to land and operate out of my yard like previous. And their biggest concern is the safety for the quicker response times. I think I have a letter from the neighbors that they're okay with the activity in the area. That's pretty well covers. Basically, I'd like to try and work something out so that we can get some more business in Manitowoc. Obviously, nuclear waste is out. Some of our businesses are struggling, and if we could bring in this project that comes in February for the Hydro One, they said if it's just a couple flights a day, it could be up to around $800. Sound right, Owen, in fuel?
Yeah, 2 helicopters.
Yeah. So, how can we work together? We don't want them to go to Hornpain. They can rent a house there. Everybody thinks there's nothing there. No, there's a house there. And when he flies out of Hornpain in the summertime, he lands beside the KB Lake cabin, right beside the guys, and he walks into the thing because he wants to be quickly accessible for an injury. Mm-hmm. There'll be this project here will be 7 people, so they'll be eating in restaurants for 3 to 4 weeks. The gas at the gas station, the aircraft fuel. Some of them buy their own groceries. It's money in town. And I'd like to try and work something out so that everybody's happy and get the community benefits economically, if that makes any sense.
Questions?
No real questions unless there's something on our side that we need to clarify.
Through the chair, I'd like to ask Mr. Cranny, as the airport manager, what are the concerns that you have about this issue?
As I indicated before, zoning is one, safety is another, and driving the business to where it needs to be, and that's at your airport.
But I think
there's a whole, I'm not prepared to, I don't have any answers right, and I didn't bring a response to the deputation.
Okay.
But the Jacob McKinnon from Canadian Ore Body said I could provide you with his email or his phone number. Said he's more than willing to answer any questions on their end of exploration end of it. He said he's open. He said you could call any time if you had any questions with him regarding how they want to run their business.
There's no questions.
Well, through the chair, I have another question for Mr. Cranny. Is the airport hours, like, is there a full-time employee there right now?
It's 4 hours a day, Monday to Friday,
Okay.
but we do have options for other hours and other services as well. We do that. We do.
Okay. So something could possibly be worked out with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, is there a possibility that these people wouldn't come here if they had to land at the airport? Is that what you're telling us?
Actually, they just did a 3-week program. The helicopter booked for the 3 weeks for the job. And then when I texted him at the last minute, I said, you realize you can't land here? And he was pretty upset, and he said, the only reason why I'm coming because I booked you. Otherwise, I would have went to Marathon, or Hornpain, he said. Trevor King, Hydro One pilot. He
Through the
said,
chair, there seems to be two issues then, zoning and safety. Am I correct?
Yes.
So let's go at what the questions are then.
I'm willing to change my zoning. That's not a problem. If that's what it takes.
So from a safety aspect, that's the company and pilot's business, is it not? To ensure safe landing?
Yes, that's what's described in the Transport Canada memo. They're allowed to land anywhere in Ontario.
So they're allowed to do it. Can they do it safely? I would think that's the pilot's business, is it not? I've had a little bit of experience with aircraft with natural resources, but I'm just throwing that out. Do we have a safety problem here? Because if we do,
I think what we will do is we'll take your presentation. You've done a good job of explaining what you have. There are a couple of questions, but I think to be fair to everybody, we have to make sure that we get a response from Mr. Cranny and the airport manager as to what his concerns are, and then we have to take both your concerns and his and come up with that.
Because when they did their deputation in 2016, they assured me there were no contraventions. It was safe. They told me they were not going to go fight for something that they are allowed to do. They have better things to do. So that way because they told me, if you stay out of it, we're going to look after it because we're completely legal. Everything's covered. And then when they lost their delegation, then I took it in my own hands that winter. And when like I said, when I presented to Transport Canada, he said there's not an issue safety-wise. There's not an issue. They land where they land. They're covered.
Through the chair, Mr. Turner, is it possible for them to land at that helipad across the road where the M&R building is?
It's town property. I
Owned property. Yeah.
Oh.
That was stopped. That practice was stopped for safety reasons, concerns as well.
But in the federal, when the aviation regulation states you have to be 1,600 meters feet from the dwelling and all the factors, and everything's legit. Like every pilot that comes there and looks at the yard says this is perfectly legal. Why aren't you fighting it? And then after Hydro gave up because they didn't want press for something they're allowed to do. They said there's no point of us trying to push the issue, and then that's basically why they left Manitowoc. They packed her up in December. And then we lost, way more than 35,000. There's 35,000 in the combinations, meals, and guys. He said there was anywhere from 4-man crews, anywhere from 4 to 6 man crews at one point. And at the heat of the game there was 60 people here he was telling me they had 4 pickup trucks, they had the helicopter, they had Argos, they had all these rough terrain vehicles, they had 3 bucket trucks, they're renting land. They were spending a fortune. And unfortunately, the decision, which was directed at safety, which they assured me it wasn't, and Transport Canada is telling me it is, I don't see an issue with the safety. I don't see it. But if you guys want to try and figure something out with the landing fees, or like they suggested, a flat rate, or they're still going to buy their fuel. You're still going to have to pay them a call out to go out and fuel up, whatever. They're okay with that. But their concern is to be in the yard for that faster response time. They offered to pay the landing fees at the last delegation. They said they would pay it. No big deal.
Well, when we take a delegation, what we usually do, and what we plan to do, is thank you very much for your delegation, and we need to get a report from administration and see their side of it as well, and then we, as a council, would sit down and decide what we think, providing everything is legal and proper, as to what we think we can do.
But what would be the turnaround time on that?
Probably a couple of weeks
It
before.
said January 8th is the next council meeting, Kevin.
Okay.
Okay.
We break for Christmas.
And be it further resolved that council thanks the above noted representative for attending and provide the presentation to council, and be it further resolved that staff bring back a report regarding helicopters landing at Turner's Northwood Adventures. All in favor? Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Scavanello, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting held on November 27, 2019 are adopted as circulated. All in favor? Thank you. I think it's June.
Oh, that was last meeting? Yeah.
You may have time to change the name of the bottom.
Just down here?
Are there any of the agenda items that we would like to bring down? Seeing none?
Yes, I'd like to bring down 0801, please.
Oh, you don't want to? Moved by Councillor Hudson, seconded by Councillor Rolla. Resolved that correspondence number 0801 to 0803 be received and filed, and be it further resolved that agenda item 0801 be returned to council under business for the meeting of December the 11th, 2019. All in favor? Okay. Verbal update by the mayor. 2 weeks ago, I went to Thunder Bay for a special meeting of the health unit because the province has decided in their infinite wisdom now that they would set up a commission to look at the possibility that some of the things that they wanted to do maybe are not doable the way they want to do it. So they've hired the CAO from Bancroft in that area to be the commissioner of this group, and we met for 2 days, and the reason this guy took the job was he was assured by the government that the preconceived notion that we were going to go from 35 units to 10 was off the table, that they wanted suggestions from all the municipalities and other stakeholders as to what exactly could be done to sort of have the same effect that they were going to have without cutting it down by that many units. So we had very productive 2 days. We're going to have another one in about a month and a half, and then they will issue the report to the provincial government. Hopefully, based on what we saw and what was going on there isn't one community in Ontario that's happy with the way this was going to work out, because the province, for instance, just in the health unit, the province had decided to reduce the amount they were paying by $210 million, but telling the units they didn't have to do anything different, just get the money from the municipalities, and that just can't work. Municipalities can't do it. So hopefully I'll have some really good news to give in a couple of months. Yes, you were going to have an update?
Yeah, I have a few things. Actually, I wasn't at the last council meeting, so I have a few things to bring forward. As of recently, we've been working on our annual renewal for our insurance policy to cover all of the municipality facilities. As council knew, we did have concern that we had advised that they wouldn't provide coverage for the ski hill in our renewed policy. So Jolene's been working on it. We've since received assurance from our insurance company that they will cover the ski hill in the 2020 season. There is some notable price change in the insurance. This is not due to the ski hill. It's due to the insurance industry in general and our claim history. So just to provide a brief update to council, due to our increased claims, they're looking at increasing our deductible from $10,000 per claim to $25,000 per claim. We were looking at a price increase of approximately $21,000 a year, increasing the cost of our insurance package as well. There's a general increase across the industry, and then our claim history on top of it. We've had a few water and sewer claims this year and some incidents that are driving it up. So general liability costs for insurance are where we're seeing a substantial increase for the municipality. We did go out for pricing when we did look at the whole package. We sent out for 3 prices. We received 1 response back, and that's from our current provider. So our present policy expires at the end of the year, so we're getting down to crunch time to enact our new policy and to do that. We do have the premiums for the whole package for the general liability. There is one component they haven't priced yet, which is called umbrella coverage, and it's just a catch-all for anything that doesn't fit the criteria of your general liability insurance. It comes under that component. They expect to see a similar, I think it was 8% or something they were talking across the board increase in general insurance, that we expect to see that as well. So I just want to give council an overview, so when we do renew and it comes back with a substantially higher deductible, you'll know what's going on. And they did advise us that, as we move forward, our claim history hopefully decreases, that we can go back to the lower deductible. The municipality has received an interest of application for a funding for the municipal modernization program that just had to be submitted by Friday, December 6th. Treasury and EDC did get together on things that met the criteria and what we could apply for. So we've applied for funding for a line-by-line review of the entire municipal budget. An IT review, so technology, now that we have the fiber optic up and running, to make sure that our server has the proper speed to take advantage of that, and that we have the proper security, IT security in place for the internet system. Looking at our software that we use to make sure we're being efficient and taking advantage of all the services that we can provide, and looking at online payment process to make it easier for the public to have a good system for online payment for taxes and water bills and things of that nature. And to look at continuity of operation. There's lots of, you've heard of this malware and fiber attacks and different things that are happening in communities, ransomware. So looking at some continuity of operations, backing up, having server backups and backing up our IT information. So those are things that will be studied, that we've asked to be studied through this grant application. We did receive a quote from one provider in the area of $70,000 to $100,000 to provide that whole overview for us. If the funding is approved, project must be completed by June 30th of 2020. It is unknown what level of funding will be provided for the project, so we're going to have to wait until the funding is announced to see if this is something we can proceed with or part of it. On a pleasant note, nomination to the Ontario Visionary Award, Katie Semino, a local business owner-operator, has been nominated. for the Youth Professional Network, Ontario's brightest starters under 40 years of age. Katie, as the Vice President of Manrock, has been nominated for this. There's 5 awards up for grabs. 20 people have been nominated for the award. The gala dinner will be held at the Valhalla Inn in Thunder Bay on Saturday, September 18th. And 4 or 5 categories of awards will be presented. Florence McLean, our Economics Officer, has been asked to be a judge at that event. And council members are invited to attend. There is a supper with tickets and a fee to attend. If you're interested or would be in Thunder Bay that day, please see Florence, and she can help you out with tickets. And staff will be including information about this in the January edition of the Genome. So we wish Katie well and hopefully see her succeed at this. Great representation for Manitowoc.
Okay, one question going back kind of with the IT stuff and
Yes.
with the insurance stuff. In that quote, does that at all include cybersecurity?
No, that's a separate policy. I just recently attended a presentation on that topic, and it was kind of a round table of communities there, and there was mixed feelings on that about paying it out or not paying it out. The OPP were there and did a presentation. They had just started a brand new cybercrime unit for the province, and they're encouraging us not to pay out. I know it's difficult. I spoke to one community who had that very attack and tied up every email that the municipality had for 2 to 3 weeks, and they couldn't do business hardly. Right? So although they recommend you don't do it, they're understanding why municipalities get pushed into paying the ransom for that and doing it. The price, we did go out for a quote once, I believe, on that insurance, and it's not something we acted on at the time. I forget the number off my head right now.
Okay.
It was substantial cost, was it not?
Yeah, I don't recall the exact figure either, but it was quite a bit for that coverage.
One of the reasons that a lot of communities will get caught is they have their backup system attached to their current operating system. We don't have that. We have our backup system off premises, and all we would have to back up would be about a week's worth of stuff. See, I don't understand why any community would have their backup system attached to their existing system, because you can hack into that anytime.
Yeah. We're hoping this review will look at all those avenues and bring a detailed report back to council.
Okay, just because I've seen some of the presentations, and I know it was a
Yeah, it's
back and forth thing whether
Yeah.
it's justifiable to pay the premiums or not. So
For sure.
Okay, thanks.
Through the chair, is NOMA not involved in a collective insurance thing for Northern Ontario? They're not.
No.
They're not doing anything.
They're talking about it, but they're not looking at a collective insurance.
We're continuing to have boiler troubles in both buildings. We put new boilers in a year ago. We've been working with the manufacturer and supplier to get to the bottom of the problem. It's become a concern for this building and for the rec center both. We put 5 identical units in, and we're having issues with them. We thought we were done when we bought new units, so continue to monitor and keep an eye and hopefully have a resolve shortly on that. You may hear some talk around the rec center about being cool once in a while. We're having staff come in on the weekends and make sure they're staying lit and relighting and doing things like that right now in the interim. Curling ice, we had attempted to paint the curling ice. We did have some trouble. The painting's rescheduled for December 13th, and we hope to have it up and running prior to January for curling. Christmas parade was held. It was a great success. Lots of both participants and spectators enjoyed themselves, with 3 local businesses taking the prizes for the parade. It was nice to see. First place was won by Napa, second by Manrock, and third place by IT 2000. We also held a minor hockey jamboree, which is well attended, and we have an alumni game scheduled for December 31st. Festival of Lights for Christmas, judging on December 19th. The ski hill, things are progressing well. We hope to be having the trainer in this weekend for both the groomer operations and snowmaking, as well as installing the T-bars on this stuff, and having the mechanic come in on December 19th to work with our local volunteers and ski hill people to get it going. The goal is to have it open before Christmas. There's still lots to do, but with the cool weather, people are hopeful that they can achieve this.
Perfect.
Our new public works supervisor started work on Monday, so he's getting in the groove now, and hopefully we'll be up to speed shortly. He's getting established and things. As council knows, the grader was broke down for a week. We had to make substantial repairs to the engine on the grader. They've been made. It obviously shows the benefit of buying Caterpillar equipment with having the local Cat mechanic in town. He was very quick to come in when we called, make the repairs, order the parts, come back a following day, finish the repairs, and get the unit back into service, as opposed to some other one where we may have to float it out of town. So that was good to see. Council did request a delegation at the Roma meeting with the MTO minister, Caroline Mulrooney. We've made application. We're just waiting for confirmation back on whether we definitely will get the delegation for the January meeting. And as I mentioned earlier, Northern Broadband Wireless is up and running. They have, the last count I heard was around 80 customers in town now getting internet service from them. They're continuing to do installs. The hospital is up and running on that system as well. And some elves went and lit up the tower again for us as well. So, good to see. That's the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Hudson, being a bylaw to authorize a temporary borrowing of $1 million be read a first and second time. Do we need an explanation?
Chris is in the room if you'd like some explanation.
I think they probably would want to know that it's...
So we tax twice a year. We do interim tax billing in January with due dates, anticipated due dates at the end of February and the end of April. And then after the budget passes, we have the final billing of the new tax rate for the current year with anticipated due dates at the end of August and October. Once December comes, we're functioning, we're operating on old money, per se, that money for billing that hasn't been billed. So we borrow from ourselves. It's standard annual. We just loan off ourselves because we're spending revenues that have yet to be collected.
Okay.
No further questions? And further, be read a third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2019-26. All in favor? Right here? Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Arola, being a bylaw to delegate the authority to enter into a tax arrears extension agreement, be read a first and second time. You're on again, sir.
Thank you. Municipal Act has made some major changes over the last couple of years with regards to tax collection. Currently, our policy is, I believe, 2006. I've touched with pre-review. However, in there it states that at any time during the year which a tax registration has been commenced on a property, the property owner may request an extension to the time afforded to pay the taxes and other amounts owing. The treasurer shall bring these requests forward to the township council with the recommendation, and the council may, by bylaw, authorize an agreement between the owner and the municipality setting out the terms and conditions of the extension. New legislation allows municipalities to delegate the treasurer under Section 23.1 and 23.2 of the Municipal Act with the powers to authorize this agreement. And they said that in the scenario would be somebody in a tax arrears situation, which was 3 years, is now 2. If they're in that situation where they need to do an extension agreement, me as the tax collector would have all the financial information regarding that property, that individual, the payment history, and for it to go to council who is unaware of the account, unaware of the collection methods, unaware of the conversations with the individuals, and the timeline of us having council meeting once a month, twice a month. The timeline on it is very time sensitive in the tax sale process. To the day is to the day. And with the new legislation allowing the treasurer to enter into that agreement with the property owner, it makes much more sense. It's new legislation, and I'd like to eventually work that into our new tax collection policy as well.
Any questions?
So that just means that, through the chair, that just means that the bylaw regarding that will have to be altered.
I've considered and had some conversations already about amending our current tax collection policy early in the new year, as many terms of legislation have changed in the last couple of years. We need to do some general housekeeping and move forward with new tax collection methods that are available to us.
And furthermore, be read a third time, passed and numbered as bylaw number 2019-27. All in favor? Just one this time. Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that Council is in receipt of Administration Report TR 2019-08, submitted by Chris Townsend, Acting Treasurer, regarding municipal office hours. You're on again, sir.
Thank you. At the regular meeting of Council, February 12, 2019, a notice of motion resulted in Council instructing that the municipal office be open from 10 to 4:30 and during lunch on due dates for taxes and utilities for a trial period ending November 30th, 2019, and further that a report be provided to Council for further consideration of the December 2019 Council meeting. During the trial period, we had 3 tax and utility due dates. On April 30th, there were 4 customers between the hours of 2 and 4:30. August 29th, there were 0 customers between 2 and 4:30. And October 31st, there were 4 customers between 2 and 4:30. So for Council's information purposes, I recommend that we go back and remain open only during the 10 to 2 daily and during the lunch on the due dates of taxes and utilities.
Discussion.
Through the chair, I think that would be fine. Staying open for those extra hours for 8 people, I don't think that makes it worth it. It was nice that we gave it a try and wanted to see how it turned out, but I think I agree with Mr. Towns' recommendation.
Yep.
Okay, Tracy.
No, I have to finish.
Okay. Okay, so they're agreeing with the recommendation, so.
I agree with the recommendation.
Yep.
I agree.
Agree.
And be it further resolved that upon conclusion of Council's review and consideration, direct staff as follows. Council approves municipal office hours to be open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily and during lunch on dates for taxes and utilities. All in favor?
Yeah.
Just a point.
I cut that too.
It's 10 till 2, 5 days a week.
Regardless,
Friday.
yeah.
It just means we remain open through lunch all the time. So we're always
Yes.
open through lunch
Yeah.
5 days a week.
I got that too.
Yeah.
Moved by Councillor Scampanella, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Resolved that Council is in receipt of Administration Report TR 2019-09, submitted by Chris Towns, Acting Treasurer, regarding Strategic Asset Management Policy. You're on again, sir.
As of January 1st, 2018, Ontario municipalities are subject to Ontario Regulation 588-17, Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure, under the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act. Under this law, every municipality will be required to prepare a comprehensive strategic asset management policy, a plan to maintain core municipal infrastructure, a levels of service proposal, and a publicly accessible asset management plan. In compliance with Ontario Regulation 588-17 and with consultation with Public Sector Digest, the attached policy for your approval. This is part of the asset management program we talked about during budget, etc. Without this regulation, without this compliance, there are several federal and provincial funding opportunities that we will not be entitled to whatsoever. They won't even look at us. So my recommendation is you approve the strategic asset management policy presented.
Again, any questions?
Through the chair, so by that you mean if we don't do this, like the point of it is to have things in place and ready so when funding opportunities come up?
It is the asset management policy that you see is following the program, the software we had just recently purchased.
Okay.
We need to upgrade, we need to modernize, and that's the avenue we've taken. And without this policy in place, which states how we're going to manage our assets, we don't have that in place, we will only give up that.
Okay.
And be it further resolved that upon conclusion of council's review and consideration, we direct staff as follows. Council approves strategic asset management policy number TR 2019-001. All in favor? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Scampanello. Resolved that Council is in receipt of Administration Report TR 2019-10, submitted by Chris Towns, Acting Treasurer, regarding tax write-offs for 2019. Yes, sir.
The township owns several properties and has acquired others via failed tax sales over time, in which we need to write off the taxes. The Municipal Act provides for certain rebates in which we must comply. Multiple reasons for tax write-offs are municipal property, vacancy rebates, seniors rebates, vested property, and others such as various assessment fields, posting errors, etc. The budget for the various write-offs for 2019 was $431,050. Council is required to approve these write-offs each year by resolution. These write-offs are ongoing, and in any unusual circumstance, they would be brought to council prior to making the adjustments. So I recommend that you approve the write-offs as presented.
To the chair, just for information purposes, is that up or down compared to the previous year?
We are up. However, tax legislation has changed over the last couple of years, and staff has acted in a more aggressive manner to follow the new, to be more compliant with the Municipal Act and new tax collection opportunities available to us. So, with having said that, over years of changing in taxation law, we've become more aggressive and followed it and utilize every opportunity we can to correct. And having failed on some, that's unfortunate, that's the way it is for the time being. We will see this number decrease significantly within the next 2-3 years, and after that it would be minimal.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. And be it further resolved that upon conclusion of Council's review and consideration, direct staff as follows. Approve the tax write-offs for 2019 as presented. All in favor? Okay. We still have more?
One more time.
One more.
Yeah, busy young man. Moved by Councillor Scampanello, seconded by Councillor Rolla. Resolved that Council is in receipt of Administration Report TR 2019-11, submitted by Chris Towns, Acting Treasurer, regarding utility write-offs for 2019. Again.
Right, same as for the property taxation write-offs. The township invoices for water and sewer charges based on the meter consumption. We have budgeted for various write-offs in the amount of $48,300. Write-offs are due to municipal properties, billing errors, and failed collection attempts, which again have changed with current legislation. We had accounted for $48,300 in the budget, and there was a shortfall of $7,439. Upon review, I discovered that there was a 27.83% increase in municipal consumption for the year. So that is something that we're going to monitor and evaluate what the situation is moving forward. And again, I recommend that we approve as presented for information purposes.
No questions? And be it further resolved that upon conclusion of council's review and consideration, direct staff as follows. Approve the utility write-offs for 2019 as presented. All in favor? Is that it? Which one was that? Okay, thank you. Okay, number 8, number 5. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, we've been discussing with homeowners who've been calling us with concern, and a few councillors as well. I've talked about this matter. One is water shutoffs. In October of 2014, council approved a policy suspending the practice of shutting water off for snowbirds. I've looked at the policy. I looked at the rationale for the decision, which was it wasn't good for the valves. And in fact, we've talked to the valve manufacturer, and exercising the valves and turning them is good for the valves. It doesn't damage the valves, which was the basis of the report in 2014, not to turn them. So after that review, and we've seen where not shutting off homeowners has caused a problem, where the line freezes, it freezes back to the main, has affected neighbors or whatever. So I do believe that we could accommodate the snowbirds, which is our residents that we would be accommodating, and be able to manage this in a proper process. One, we would need a form, so the person comes in early in the fall to say they're going to be the snowbird, when they would like their water shut off, to give us time to check the valve and make sure it's operating as it should. Second, we need a note in that policy that we sign with them. If they change their holidays, for instance, they're scheduled to come back in May, and they come back at the end of January, we may not be able to accommodate turning that water back on right away if something's frozen or if there is a problem. It's not that easy in January to address those problems. So I think it is a practice we can accommodate, but with the understanding that if you come back earlier in the season, we may not be able to get it back on at that point in time to accommodate that. It is our utility. We should be able to control it. We do shut them off. In the policy, it says for an emergency or maintenance. So if you as a snowboarder just phone up and say it's for maintenance and don't tell us how long you're going to be gone for, we're doing it anyways. I think we'd be better served by having a proper snowbird shut-off form in place and doing that. So if council's open to this, I will get a form drawn up and bring back. We're late in the season for this year, but I think it's a good move for moving forward for people for planning. And we can get the form back to you for the next council meeting for your approval and the policy adjustment.
Okay, to the chair. I do notice you have shutoffs and bleeders.
As we're talking about bleeders, it's a separate.
Oh, it's a separate issue?
Yes, I'm going to talk about bleeders separately.
Okay.
Because the policy right now doesn't talk about bleeders. We don't actually have a bleeder policy.
Okay.
Okay, so we've done some research on that, and I'll talk about bleeders separately, Councillor Mott, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So through the chair, I agree with updating the policy for water shutoffs, because there is quite a few people that are snowbirds, and I think
And we'll design a form
it's
and bring
good.
it back to
Yeah.
council to adjust the policy at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you want to talk about the bleeders now?
Oh, that's next. This has been a long-standing debate in Manitouwadge. Do we allow bleeders? Do we not allow bleeders? We've had all kinds of problems over the years dealing with frozen water and doing it in different methods and without clear policy or a good practice in place, and trying to prevent it from happening, being proactive, not reactive. So we've took a list, we just recently took a look at the list for the last 2 years. We have 28 water services that have froze in the last 2 years, well, not both years. We could implement this anytime. We could start a bleeder policy at any time. It's 30 below today. You see the weather. We could use it right away. We need to know a start date, so if we're going to put somebody on a bleeder, because we have to read their meter that day, so we need to coordinate this with the property owner. It's suggested that we look at March 31st as being the time, okay, we would normally shut the bleeders off and go back to regular metering. We'd have the homeowner, unless the homeowner contacts us, if they want to get off the flat rate and go back to the meter reading or whatever, or they're going away or they want to shut it down, through the form that we would create, we would have a tracking process for that. So we would do it till March 31st, unless the homeowner contacted us to stop it earlier. We would also have a system to notify through these forms, to notify the homeowner of an extension. We've seen cold weather last into April and stuff, so we may need to look at that March 31st date and extend it out. And the same token, we've had forest fires in March where it's been warm and the weather's been good, so maybe we could look at the program and cut it back earlier in the years. It would just be weather dependent. We'd have a form, the customer comes in and signs what we would do for that period of the freeze that we'd let them run their bleeder. We would average their 3 previous quarters, and we would note the consumption, and we would invoice them for that consumption amount for the time that the bleeder's on. So we would have a proper form. They would know that number up front before we say, okay, go ahead, you're on the bleeder, and we're putting you on the quarterly average. In the form would also be the option to allow us, we have it all ready to go in and check the water meter, but we would ask to be able to inspect any bleeders if we thought it was necessary as well when we get there. So we're suggesting that a bleeder size be 1/8, no larger, so restricted to a 1/8 inch bleeder. We don't provide the bleeder. This would be something the homeowner would have installed or the business owner would have installed. In most cases right now, we're spending more money dealing with frozen water problems, and not to mention the loss of service to the resident, trying to get it unthawed, get it working, trying to get them on a hose from the neighbor, all these other issues that we try to do to be reactive as to be opposed to being preventive. Now when they freeze, we try and put them on a hose or thaw them out. When we put them on a hose, we do the flat quarterly consumption thing already. So if we be proactive, we eliminate that other step and don't have to involve more than one resident in preventing that water from being freezable. So we're looking for direction from council. Obviously, with the way the weather's going, this is going to be upon us quickly. This will give us a real case look at this winter, so we could try this for this winter if it was acceptable to council, do an evaluation in the spring of the impact and how successful it was, and report back to you at that time. So I would really like to start it sooner than later, not even wait till January 8th if council's in thing. We'll put the form together, we will get it set up, we will do the flat rate quarter consumption just like we were going to do if we wait till they freeze and put them on the hose anyways. So there's just being some proactive manners, and we would look at these 28 properties to start with.
Yeah, so through the chair, definitely a positive for sure to go ahead with this sooner than later, in my opinion.
Yeah, to the chair, I agree. Another thing that I would suggest that we do is, like you say right now, you have 28.
Yes.
The stipulations to get on that list, of 28, is that because they froze 2 consecutive years?
2 consecutive years.
Okay, so that would be the stipulation then to get on this program?
I'm not writing a policy.
Or-
this is the stuff.
or
we
a
had.
case by case?
We looked at historical data
Right.
in the last week to say, okay, where are we at and what's been the problems? And this is what our records are indicating. I'm sure we have records more than 2 years back, Chris.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so we could look if there's other homeowners approaching us that say, hey, look, I've frozen more than 1 year.
Right.
We could
Okay.
take a look at those.
But that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
not a one-off thing. It's a...
No,
if
we're
you-
going to have to. People know that they're going to come out to us now and saying you have a problem. If we have somebody that's never froze, I'd be a little apprehensive about going to this.
Okay.
Okay,
perfect. Thanks.
question?
So through the chair, these people outside of the 28, I mean, that they may have had 3 freezings in 5 years,
Yeah.
they will know somehow, be contacted about getting in touch
If
with
we
the
have,
township?
what we'll do is we'll take a look at the rest of the historical data and see if we're looking for reoccurring properties.
Right.
And some of these, the problem occurs on our property, not on the homeowner's property. We know of some of those,
Right.
so those are situations where we need to get involved.
Great idea.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Good.
Thanks.
Yeah, the wording of that?
Yeah.
So that's just that we provide with the winter meter project for 2019 and 2021.
So through the chair, you're looking at activating this like yesterday?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, I need signature. Moved by Councillor Moffat, second by Councillor Scampanello. Resolved that council request staff to bring back a policy regarding water shutoffs for council's approval. And further be it resolved that water bleeders procedure be implemented for the 2019-2020 water with winter season with
With the report in the spring.
with a report in the spring. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Scapanello, seconded by Councillor Rolla. Resolved that 2020 NOMA Annual Conference and AGM is scheduled to be held on April 29th to May 1st, 2020 in Fort Frances, Ontario. And I'd like to know who would be able to go at that time.
I'm available.
We can.
Two? Have we resolved that NOMA is, all the councillors can go to NOMA? That was,
Yeah.
so we do.
I don't know right now.
Through the chair, I'll look and see, but I'll say yes for now.
So what I'll do is I'll
Yeah.
say yes to all of it, and then if we have to, we'll notify them that somewhere in that.
Okay.
Mr. Cranny, you? If you're here. I'm just going to put CAO.
Yes, for now.
Resolved that the 2020 NOMA Annual Conference and AGM is scheduled to be held on April 29th to May 1st, 2020 in Fort Frances, Ontario. And be it further resolved that upon conclusion of council's review, the following council and/or staff members will attend: Mayor McEachran, Councillor Rolla, Councillor Hudson, Councillor Moffat, and Councillor Scampanello, and the CAO. All in favor? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Rolla, seconded by Councillor Moffat. Resolved that 2020 AGM and annual conference AMO AGM and Annual Conference is scheduled to be held on August 16th to the 19th, 2020 in Ottawa, Ontario. And that's a big one, and one, the mayor and one councillor plus the CAO.
Through the chair, I would like to put my name forward to
Would
go
you
to
like to
that.
put your name
Yes,
into
please.
that? Well, that's fine.
I went last year.
Okay. And further be it resolved that upon conclusion of council's review, the following council and/or staff members will attend: Mayor McEachran, Councillor Hudson, and the CAO. All in favor? Thank you. I guess the next one is the into closed session. Oh, yes, the business 0801.
Yes.
Yes, you had something.
Yes, through the chair. I just actually wanted to see if Mr. Cranny could clarify exactly what it is they're asking in this, as you are our building inspector.
The province has a move afoot right now to look at service delivery of building code enforcement. They're actually talking about starting an arm's length body away from the province, something similar to TSSA or some of these other groups that we see, to manage building code enforcement in the province. I was at a meeting recently, and they did we had a chance for input, and the Ontario Building Officials Association has issued a position paper on this topic. If council wishes, I can make that available to you. One of the things that they want to have happen is that the municipalities would add another fee on top of our fee and then give that to this arm's length group to operate. So there's a lot of opposition to that by municipalities, and we're waiting to hear what's going to happen. Right now there is kind of two systems of qualifications in Ontario, and the building officials is hoping to be the body. Then if that's going to be the case, that's the way the government's going to go, with a third-party body to be that body and manage that. So I can certainly provide
Yes.
more information to council on the topic.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Moffat, seconded by Councillor Scampanello. Whereas Section 239(4) of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001 C25, provides that before holding a meeting or part of a meeting that is to be closed to the public, the municipality or local board or committee of either of them shall state by resolution the fact of holding of the closed meeting and the general nature of the matter to be considered at the closed meeting. Now therefore be resolved that this meeting is hereby closed to the public as the subject matter being discussed falls under the following section. Section 239(2)B, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Appointment of community revitalization advisory committee members. And 2, Section 239(2)F, advise that it is a subject of solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. It's the LNG project. All in favor? Thank you.
Dropping money there, what?
Why don't I just use my... warm up at Friday. Hopefully we're not too late. Hey. See you later.
Councilor Moffat, seconded by Councilor Hudson. Resolved that the meeting is hereby declared to be open to the public at 8:32. All in favor? Thank you. Yeah. Moved by Councilor Hudson, seconded by Councilor Rolla. Resolved that the council appoint Simone Donaldson to the Community Revitalization Advisory Committee as a member representing the business community. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Hudson, seconded by Councilor Rolla. Resolved that council appoint Eric Roberts to the Community Revitalization Advisory Committee as a member representing the community. All in favor? Moved by Councilor Rolla, seconded by Councilor Hudson. Resolved that council appoint Cody Kehoe to the Community Revitalization Advisory Committee as a member representing the community. All in favor? What's that for?
Yes, right.
Moved by Councilor Hudson, seconded by Councilor Rolla. Resolved that the council direct staff to contact the appointed members to initiate selecting their first meeting date in January 2020 and to provide them with required reading prior to the identified meeting date. And be it further resolved that council direct staff to continue to promote the committee and to advertise the vacancies as follows: 1 youth member, 1 Indigenous member, and 1 business member. All in favor? Thank you. Moved by Councilor Hudson, seconded by Councilor Moffat. Resolved that the regular meeting adjourn at the hour of 8:35. All in favor? Thank you. Wasn't very smart, now I have to go back upstairs again.
Yeah, but I don't need to get a chance before you get here. Yeah, stuff like that.
Wasn't very smart, now I have to go back up.
Perfect. I looked at it before, right?
I'm going upstairs, but I have to go to the back room that we lost.
I don't have a key, I gotta come with you.
Yeah.
Why are you